Ready, go.
Dane Grider, Probable Cause. It is Sunday night, July 23, 2023. Glad to have you with us on this Sunday evening video. You know, every week I sit in this chair and I try to shoot straight, rapid fire. I don't have a teleprompter. I just give it to you straight as fast as I can. I got a whole bunch of subjects I got to get through here today. I like a lot of subjects. I got some more information on the June information. I got some more information on the July fatals. We are making a difference out here. I got all that stuff to cover. I've still got some Cessna 550 information that you don't know about. The jet crash that killed 6 in California. I'm going to get to that in a little bit. Specifically, the Cessna 310 crash. I did a deep dive on the 310 crash. I'm going to tell you exactly what the deal is. You tell me if I'm right or wrong, but I'm going to tell you exactly what our problem is on the 310 crash, and I am fired up over the 310 crash. Before I get that, I'm going to talk about some data. I got a lot of DTSB members and volunteers all over the country helping me out. We're all volunteers. We all work for free. Everybody chips in. I've got a lot of people. This guy, Landon Cohen, is he is a genius on data. Let me show you the slideshow that he has built for me, and I'm going to show you the data. The data is what's going to be able to tell us if we're actually helping this or not. When I say we, I'm talking about all of us. Instagram, Facebook, YouTubers, people, FlightAware, Live ATC, ADSB Exchange, every bit of this information that we can use to get the information out there faster on what happened to our fellow brothers so that we don't make the same mistake. NTSB, formerly in the dark, cold days of Stone Age, has hoarded information, not told you, never made a recommendation. They hoard that information for 3 years. When they make a probable cause 3 years later, nobody's going to remember it. Therefore, we never improve. Now, today, we have new data, and I am very happy to have Landon on our DTSB team. Let me show you this slideshow here. Here's the first screen for it that Landon built for me. Here's the GA fatals per year. This is showing you all the way back to 2012 to 2023, the number of fatals, general aviation, Part 91, USA fatals per year. I don't really care how many fatals, I don't really care how many hours per year we flew, doesn't matter. I want less fatals, I want less funerals. General aviation fatals per year. Here's the green line that shows you maybe we might start seeing a trend, a flicker in the correct direction. I don't know. I don't know what that means. General aviation fatals by month, 2012 to 2023. Here's the spike. You can see in the summer months, the general aviation fatals are the heaviest. Let's take a look at general aviation fatals average per month from 2012 to 2023. There's several months in a row that break 20 general aviation fatals per month. The month of June, July, August, September, and October typically get more than 20. June and August and September have averaged 21 general aviation fatals per month. Isn't that amazing? General aviation fatals by month for the year 2012. So I'm going to break it down year by year. 2012, here's how we did. Here's 2013. Here's 2014. Here's 2015. Here's 2016. Here's 2017. Here's 2018. Here's 2019. Here's 2020, here's 2021, and here's 2022. General aviation fatals by month for the year 2023, we're actually doing a little bit better. Look at this. For the month of June, we were at 15. We did really good at the beginning of this year. Our projected end of this thing is probably going to be, if we're able to keep on going here, is probably going to be a little bit better. My thanks to Landon Cohen for building this. He and several other people are working on the data acquisition to be able to tell more in real time if we're making any improvement. Are we getting any education out there? Are people learning? Are they paying attention? Are they being a little bit more careful with their airplanes to try to not die in their airplanes? All right, I got a lot of stuff to talk about coming up. Before I do that, I'm going to give you a quick review on my toxic water series. This has to do with you and your airport, your ability to fly. There's a thing called federal grants and assurances for airports. It allows pilots to be able to freely use airports and be able to store their airplanes and fly their airplanes. Are protecting our freedom to fly by not having our airports infested with beauty salons and truck repair places and plumbing outfits and things like that. The federal government is obligated to keep our airports for aeronautical use. Our city government at Griffin has been the one that has been absolutely trying to get, I'm the biggest aeronautical user that they have there, and they've been trying to get rid of me for forever. Every time this guy, Robert Mole, the airport manager, always comes out with 5 cop cars and paperwork and everything, trying to harass me. He has harassed and discriminated me. All I ever do is buy gas and fly my airplanes. It's completely ridiculous. Now, the tables have turned because, I want you to follow this closely. This is really getting good. We filed a Part 13 complaint. I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you the footprint on exactly how to do this. A Part 13 complaint is an informal complaint to the FAA saying that there's a big problem here. There's 2 problems at Griffin that they have now. One is discrimination against me that we can prove. Number 2, they have not only allowed non-aeronautical use of these hangars and these facilities, they have encouraged it. They have solicited it. This guy, Robert Mole, every time he comes out here. Now, what we did was we filed a Part 13 complaint. Nobody was anonymous, so we had everybody sign it. We had lawyers, we had firms, we had Aero Consulting in Florida, we had certified mail. Everybody signed it. We sent this letter to the FAA and to GDOT with our complaint. This airport is riddled and infested with non-aeronautical use. Guess what? Nothing happened up until about 2 weeks ago when all of a sudden I got this letter taped to my door. I'm going to read it to you, and I'm put it on the screen here. This is from Georgia Department of Transportation. It says the Georgia Department of Transportation and the Federal Aviation Administration have received complaints regarding the non-aeronautical use of hangars at the Griffin-Spalding County Airport, which is owned and operated by the Griffin-Spalding Airport Authority, the sponsor. Specifically, these complaints that allege that there are multiple hangars at the Griffin-Spalding County Airport that are being utilized for primarily non-aeronautical purposes without having received appropriate approvals for interim non-aviation use. The department, an FAA state block grant program participant, is responsible for investigating compliance-related matters at general aviation airports in Georgia on behalf of FAA and therefore must investigate these complaints. So that's what happened. No doubt about it. We complained. Our airport is infested with non-aeronautical use. You have every kind of junk collector, everything out there collecting all this kind of stuff. Well, guess what? The airport came out and they wrote a letter, and I'm going to put this on the screen. This is the letter that they sent. They said they sent this to everybody on or about the 30th of June. The Griffin-Spalding Airport Authority received a letter from the Georgia Department of Transportation, that's the one I just showed you, as agent for the FAA concerning an anonymous complaint filed against the authority as to non-aeronautical uses in some of the hangars on and on our airfield. A copy of the GDOT's letter attached to your review. They wanted to pin this on me for making an anonymous complaint, like go after Dan, he's the bad guy stirring all this stuff. No, it's not anonymous. Our airports, our pilots, our aircraft owners are on my side. We don't want those people down there. We want our hangars. We want to get rid of the infestation down there. They're calling me an anonymous complainer. I am not anonymous. Well, guess what? The same Mr. Robust Robert Mole, airport manager, that always has an entourage of people and board members and cops and code enforcement at his side, he got required to come and inspect my hangar, and I was looking forward. This actually happened the other day. I want you to look at Robert. He taped these letters to my door because he wouldn't mail them to me. Check this out.
TCEs, trichlorinated solvents.
Yeah.
It's what they use for dry cleaning.
But now you have to monitor the water here?
Yes.
And what is the thing that goes in the water? What is it you're looking for?
It's TCE. So they were using chlorinated solvents because they're a uniform facility.
I see.
Yeah. And so they had something leaking over there, one of their tanks or something like that. I can't remember what the full deal was on it.
So it got down into the water table.
It got down in the water table, exactly. So, it spreads out in kind of a plume, and that's why pretty much from this site over to the park, and then kind of on the far side of the Centos facility there is where we have all the monitors. Friday, July 21, 2023, sitting outside my hangar, waiting for my hangar inspection. I got notified that all the hangars, according to GDOT, have to be inspected to find out if there's been aeronautical use. GDOT says there's been a complaint. Robert Mole says there's been an anonymous complaint. There's nothing anonymous about our complaint. We have a team working on this. The interesting thing is, when Robert gets here, I'm going to ask him for sure, who put this on my door? I want to know who put this on my door. This is the letter that I got served concerning hangar inspections. Instead of mailing it to me, they put it in a piece of plastic garbage bag and they brought it down and they taped it to my door right here. A mailbox would have been just fine, but no, they wanted to damage my door and put super sticky duct tape on here. When Robert gets here, I for sure am going to ask him who did this. It's 4 o'clock. Here he comes now. This is going to be fun.
I'm gonna go in, see if you got some airplanes in there, write the tail numbers down, and then I'm gonna leave.
All right, I got a couple things I gotta ask you about.
I'll try to answer as best I can.
Who did this to my door?
That would be the airport authority.
They came out here? Who actually did that to my door?
That would be me. I put it up there on your door.
Okay, you aware of the damage you did to the paint?
I'm aware.
Who did this to my door?
That would be the airport authority.
Who did this to my door?
That would be the airport authority.
Who did this to my door?
That would be the airport authority.
Who actually did that to my door?
That would be me.
Who did this to my door?
That would be the airport authority.
Who actually did that to my door?
That would be me.
So it's fixed to get interesting for Mr. Mole. I predict he's going to get fired over this. The penalty for soliciting non-aeronautical use, they don't have anything that they can do about it. Now they've got all those tenants in there that have signed leases and established businesses inside our public use hangars. They have a huge problem, and it's no longer my problem. I'm going to show you via YouTube exactly how this plays out and exactly how you can do the same thing at your airport. I'm going to show you the exact footprint on how to do this. This is a federal FAA Part 16 complaint. Part 13 is informal. Part 16 is a formal complaint. It's actually a lawsuit against GDOT, against the FAA, and it's against the city of Griffin. They're all three named defendants because they have not done their job. You can do the exact same thing. I'm going to show you how to do it. It's all going to be public. I'm going to name names. I'm going to put their pictures on YouTube of who these people are, in what departments, what their titles are, and what their phone numbers are if you want to contact them. They're not doing their job. Robert Mole has not done his job, and he should be fired. Not only has he allowed this to happen, he has encouraged and fostered and solicited this to happen. I'm on my high horse, but I think you can see where this is going. Let's go on to the next topic here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this thing right here. I've got another thing that we're going to be talking about. This is in-flight fires. I'm not a 121 guy. Actually, I am a 121 guy. This isn't my thing, but I want you to take a look at the YouTube video for my friend Captain Laura Savino, who started her YouTube channel. She did a recent video on in-flight fires. It has to do with cell phones, tablets, and computers catching on fire in flight. It's a huge problem. Did you know that the FAA has looked at this? They've tabled it. There is no requirement to have any firefighting combative, any policies, procedures, or training in place to battle a phone or a tablet that catches fire. I don't know about you, but a fire on a tablet, a burning, raging fire in flight is a huge deal. There's several things that you can do. This is a PBE that anybody can buy. They're about 80 bucks. I've got one. They gave it to me to try out. It's not just a PBE, not a PBE. There's no oxygen being generated here. This is a filter so that you can see and breathe in the event of excessive smoke. What you need is a place to put this thing. Here's a picture of the receptacle you're supposed to put this thing. You need an asbestos glove with fingers to be able to pick this thing up. You can't put your phone or your tablet in water. Water only makes the lithium problem worse. It only flares up and makes it worse. A fire in flight, can you imagine having a bin fire in the overhead bin for a tablet that caught on fire and started everything else near it on fire while you're over the Atlantic, 6 hours from the closest land? Can you imagine? You got to have this. FAA so far has been silent on this. There's been at least 57 incidents aboard commercial airliners just in the USA alone in the last year. Check out this clip.
And many U.S. airlines now have those containment bags on board. That's why it's so important to carry on your devices and batteries. Never put them in your checked luggage.
A scary scene on a Spirit Airlines flight Wednesday. Crew members rushing to put out a fire that broke out in midair. Passenger Rocco Chiricella jumped in to help.
I'm a retired New York City fireman. I guess it's just instinct.
The cell phone video shows Chiricella and crew members dousing the overhead compartment with water and fire extinguisher spray.
The whole cabin smoked up, filled up with smoke.
Air traffic controllers at one point unable to hear the pilots as they raced back to San Diego.
At 2664, I understand you might be on mask there. I cannot hear you. Suggest you turn north, and you are clear for the visual to San Diego at any time.
The plane making a steep but safe landing.
So that makes me ask, what's a duck worth? What's a hen weigh? About 3 pounds. What's a duck worth? About $4. Duckworth is the female political person who's sponsoring a new bill. You thought flight training was hard before. Ms. Duckworth is sponsoring new legislation that not only requires 1,500 hours, but they're bumping up the experience level, what they want you to have in that 1,500 hours. They're going to make it even more difficult for a kid to become a pilot because they're setting the bar even higher. Check this out. I got it on the screen right here. This is her new proposed regulations for flight training on what you have to get hired as a Part 121 regional pilot with a limited ATP. This is the requirements that she's wanting you to have. I'm pretty fired up over this as well. It's not going to be good. We already have a pilot shortage problem out there. Ms. Duckworth, this is not going to make it any better. I've been doing a lot of flight training with Dylan and his Cherokee 140. We just had that Cherokee 140 crash in Missouri. 3 people on board, 2 got killed. As a result of that, he and I have had a lot of discussions about density, altitude, and gross weight. We've modified his checklist now to incorporate a final check on density, altitude, and gross weight. Gross weight as a percentage of the most. So in his airplane, he's an 826-pound useful load. Before he pushes the power forward to take off, he's got to recite out loud, he's got to recite what his percent of useful load is and what his density altitude is so that he knows before he goes. He's also got to confirm a rejected takeoff plan. How far is he going to go? What's he going to stop for? How is he going to stop? At what point is he going to stop? And how is he going to know that he needs to do a rejected takeoff? Engine failure after takeoff. There it is. Push. He's expecting it. Listen to his brief. This is a very, very short video, but this is Dylan flying solo. This is the way I got him spooled up. I'm still working on it. I'm a very experienced flight instructor. To tell you the truth, I do very little primary flight instruction anymore, so this has kind of been a new wrinkle on me. I haven't done much primary pre-solo beginner type stuff in a long time, but we have modified Dylan's checklist. This is like version 14 of his checklist that we have modified and modified and modified. You can do the same thing on your airplane. I want you to watch this and think about using it as a footprint. Here's Dylan on his takeoff just a couple days ago.
All right, before takeoff checklist, controls free and correct. Attitude indicator, set. Heading indicator, set. Trim, set for takeoff. Flaps, set for 10 degrees for takeoff. Doors closed and latched. Fuel selector full tank, check. Carb heat, off. Mags, both. Passenger brief, no passengers. Rejected takeoff brief. I will reach 60 miles per hour by 50% of the runway. If I don't reach 60 miles per hour by 50% of the runway, I will abort the takeoff. Lost thrust on takeoff brief. I'll lose an engine on takeoff. When that happens, I will say, there it is, push. Gross weight, 37.5% with me and fuel. Density altitude, 1,800 feet. Fuel on board, 3 hours. Hot items, parking brake off. Mixture full rich. Landing light on. Fuel pump on. Final clear. Before takeoff checklist complete, hot items complete. Griffin traffic at November 8264 November, taking off on runway 32 Griffin. Okay, we got a little bit of a shorter runway. So we're looking for 60 miles per hour by 1,000 feet here. Looking for oil pressure, looking for fuel pressure. Finals clear. 60 miles per hour. We have 70, rotate. Maintain DMS. Flaps up. Turning light off. Fuel pump off. Maintain DMS. After takeoff checklist complete.
July 7th of this year, we had a Spitfire, a British Marine Spitfire crash out in Northwest someplace. John Sessions was the pilot. He wanted to let you know that it was a brake failure, that a brake locked up on landing. I don't think so, but I'm going to tell you, this is the story on John Sessions. This wasn't his first crash. John was flying this airplane in 2018. He lost control of this airplane, also claimed a brake malfunction during takeoff on this airplane. Several people on his flight that he was giving rides were severely injured. John actually lost his leg. He's flying under a waiver because he lost his leg. Here's a picture of John right now today with only one leg. Now he goes to land this Spitfire, and he's only got the one working leg, so he's got no feel of his rudder or his brake. He can't sense that because he's got nothing connected below the knee. This is John Sessions. I typed John Sessions in the DC-3 many years ago. I know him. All I can say is at some point, each pilot has got to recognize the set of circumstances, what you have left for appendages, and when it's maybe time to no longer fly aircraft with passengers on board. Maybe it might be time to no longer fly vintage, high-dollar aircraft at public air shows. That's all I'm going to say is I have to look at this and tell you any story about a brake locking up on landing with this Spitfire. I think a brake did lock up. I think I know how it happened. The Citation 550 crash, I've had several people go out to the site and take measurements for me. I got the same exact deal that I did before. This was not a go-around. This was a low-vis approach. Second time around, 6 people died on this. I'm very sorry for all this thing. A whole smattering of children left behind on this thing. My problem is I saw the picture on Instagram before it got pulled down. All 6 in Vegas drinking late at night, the night before. I don't know how much they drank or what was in those cups, but very inexperienced crew. This was not a 135 flight. This was the owner flying his friends and his family around. This was not a charter flight. This was a Part 91 flight. Were they legal? Yes, they were. Was it stupid? Completely stupid. This was too late at night. The weather was too bad. They had actually canceled IFR on the way down because the AWOS had previously shown that the weather was clear at French Valley Airport. They were just going to smoke it on in there and make a VFR landing, and everybody's good. When they got there, it was fogged in, as can easily do out there at those airports. They tried it once, thought it was going to improve. They brought it around again. The second time, they eased it a little bit lower. When they got over that building, somebody saw something. They jammed it forward, and they hit hard. The problem is with this airplane, it hit so hard, it bounced up in the air about 200 feet. The cabin and wings broke off of this thing. The bodies were ejected. 2 human bodies. I'm going to show you a picture here. These areas right here, these are 2 human bodies in the street. One of them just south of the street. One of them in the street. The other 4 bodies still laying around the wreckage. They went right through that airplane. 2 of the bodies were still found in their seats. That's how hard they hit. The lesson off of this: don't fly in jets with people who are brand new jet owners who just got their certificate. Just because they got a certificate or a type rating of a jet means nothing. You shouldn't be out there. You shouldn't be out there at 4 a.m. if they were consuming alcohol, which we don't know. If they were, I'm really sorry to hear that. This is a bad deal. You have to know when to say no and when to say when. Just because your friend has a jet, just because he has a piece of plastic in his pocket, may not be a good idea. It was not a good idea. There is nothing wrong with this jet. It was pure aeronautical decision-making, bad decisions, and inexperience that led this crew to do this and drive this thing straight in the ground. I'm sorry to shoot straight with you, but that's all that happened. Now we're going to talk about the Cessna 310 at Santa Fe, taking off on runway 20. You know, AOPA did a long deal about this. So did Blanco. I talked to Blanco. He realized he kind of shot too fast and was talking about a non-turbo airplane. That's fine. We all get a few things wrong here and there. Density altitude, I'm going to talk about density altitude. Specifically, AOPA has no idea what they're talking about. 50 foot of minute climb up to 17,000 feet has nothing to do with it.
The single engine service ceiling is 17,200 feet, which means the aircraft on a single engine should have been able to climb at 50 feet per minute up to 17,200.
There's the difference between the two. I'll put it right here on the screen. This airplane is a turbo airplane, which means that if you push the power forward, you can go way past 32 inches. 32 inches is top of the radial for this thing. If you go past 32, you're going to overboost it. You don't use full throttle on this. You can maintain 32 inches manifold pressure all the way up to about 16 or 17,000 feet. What does that mean concerning density altitude? Well, what does density altitude have an effect on? In a turbo airplane, it does not have any effect on power. A turbo is still going to produce at 32 inches. As long as you have 32 inches and 2750, it's going to still produce the same power. The engine doesn't know what the density altitude is, doesn't care. The airplane is going to know because of the amount of lift and how thick the air is and how much air each bite of the propeller is cutting. How thick the air, that's what density altitude is. How thick is the air? For each revolution of the prop, is the prop slicing thick, cold, juicy, chunky air, or is it slicing very thin, hot, wispy air? That's density altitude. In piston, normally aspirated airplanes, density altitude can also definitely have an effect on engine performance. Not true in a turbo. If you're getting 32 inches of manifold pressure, you're getting full power out of that. This airplane would definitely climb straight to whatever you wanted to. I fly these Turbo Aztecs, Turbo 310s. I fly this stuff. These are amazing airplanes. Now, the problem is I'm going to show this graphic for you. Here's the graphic. I'm going to show you the whole timeline on this thing. And here's the real problem I have with this. This has to do with flight training. We're teaching our kids to do this the wrong way. The problem is that the industry has told us for our primary flight training in multi-engine airplanes, engine failure, mixtures forward, props forward, throttles forward. That's full forward, balls to the wall, throttles, props, mixtures, props, throttles, full forward, suck the flaps up, put the gear up, identify, verify, feather. Take all 6 knobs and jam them to the firewall, put the flaps up, put the gear up, identify, verify, feather. That only works in a little underpowered piston twin for flight training. You do this in a turbo airplane and it's wrong. What was the mixture position on that 310 as he taxied out? It would have been back about 1.5 inches on both engines. Those engines will not run full rich. After takeoff, if you do that procedure, if you push both mixtures full forward, you're going to snuff out your remaining engine. It's not going to get full power. I'm going to show you the graphic on this because this whole thing is crazy. Here's the timeline. I'm going to show you exactly what happened. So here's the graphic on this thing. This airplane taxied out, and I'm going to set the clock at 0. I went through and pulled the ATC tape, so I'm set taxi at 0. When he first started moving the airplane, we're going to call that 0.00. He called ready, told the tower he was ready at 3 minutes and 38 seconds relative to that start of his taxi. He got cleared for takeoff 5 minutes and 33 seconds later, and he reported an engine failure at 6 minutes and 59 seconds. That's an hour, that's 1 minute and 26 seconds after they said clear for takeoff that he reported his engine failure. So here it is on the graph. Here's his taxi out. Now keep in mind, it's a long ways taxiing around this corner, so he burned up about 20 seconds of that 1 minute and 26 seconds. He burned up that much. Now he's in position and hold. He gives it the throttle. He makes the takeoff, and now he's in the air, and he reports this engine failure. Here's a side view of this thing. He only traveled 1 minute and 26 seconds until he reported this. The engine failure obviously occurred prior to 1 minute and 26 seconds after cleared for takeoff. So the procedure, engine failure, push your mixture forward, push your props forward, push both throttles to the firewall, put your flaps up, put your gear up, identify, verify, feather. That's wrong. I'm going to show you a video from Flight Shops where we talk about this. This has never made any sense to me.
I'd just begun my multi-engine training before this trip, and I stumbled upon something I was uncomfortable with. in the emergency procedures checklist of the Seneca 1 I was training on.
This is something I've been battling for years as a multi-engine instructor, and some of the views that you expressed to me, you're right aligned with what I'm thinking here. This thing makes no sense. The industry standard since the 1950s has been to teach people to start 1, 2, 3, jam everything forward arbitrarily. And about 15 years ago, I had to revisit this and say, why?
On my very first multi-engine lesson, I struggled with this.
And power, mixtures, props, throttles. They just hammered them, eh? Even though red line, we're not worried about that. Well, we're on the red line. We don't want to be over it. So did you floor them, or did you make sure you didn't go over red line?
And it's not just my flight school. This has been the established standard for multi-engine training.
And the standardized procedure goes like this. Check the mixtures, props, and throttle to ensure that you have full power. Check the flaps are up. And once again, they should be up. We just took off. It only takes a second to check. And it ensures that you're following a standardized procedure and doing it the same every time.
So while this is the standard training for the Seneca 1 and the multi-engine rating, I was also in the early stages of my T6 training at this time, and massive radial engines require very careful power setting. You can't just firewall it.
That may work for the Seneca 1 on this check ride, but what it's going to do is set you up for failure in life. You're not always going to fly a Seneca 1.
Dan's wide variety of experience definitely set him apart from any instructor I'd worked with before.
I listened to this, and I'm going to let you listen to it as well. The sound of this, when he made his engine failure report, he held his button on the push to talk a little bit too longer. He gave me a glimpse of the sound that engine was putting out. The right engine was humming, but it wasn't the right hum. And I want you to think about this. The pitch of that should be a C natural. In the music world, that should be a C, maybe C sharp. The pitch that he was making, I went back and analyzed it, and my gut instinct was correct. It is nowhere close to a C natural. It's significantly below. It's not enough RPM. That thing is not singing enough. What causes that? His mixture was jammed all the way to the rich. He was not getting full RPM. He didn't get full power out of this. In addition to that, the crash site was found with the left engine not feathered. This is pilot not being ready. This is pilot incompetence. 72 years old. He got surprised. He did the wrong thing. He talked on the radio and he did not fly his airplane. This pitch, you can hear this thing. The right engine pitch, I want you to listen to it again. This is a C flat pitch right here. It's not the correct pitch. It's not the correct procedure. You guys out there in the flight training world, here's the correct procedure. I'm going to tell you how to do this because this is how I always did it. This works for King Airs, Learjets, Citations, 777. Engine failure, gear up. Identify, verify, feather. Don't go jamming anything forward. You go to jam both throttles forward on a 777, somebody's going to look at you sideways. We set our flaps, we set our power for takeoff. After takeoff, even if you have an engine failure, the only thing you can do is raise the gear, fly the speed. Raise the gear, fly the speed. In a piston twin, you do have to identify, verify, and feather, but if you'll raise the gear, fly the speed, you'll be just fine. Do not condition people to arbitrarily jam everything forward in a time of crisis. This is exactly what happened on Colgan. If you want to go back and watch my Colgan video, that girl in time of crisis sucked the flaps up, the kiss of death. She was conditioned because of the law of primacy. The law of primacy says that in time of crisis, you're going to revert back to what you first learned in your primary instinct, your primary training. Do not teach students to engine failure, push the mixtures forward, push the props forward, push the throttles forward, then suck the flaps up. No, you're relying on those flaps for lift. If you took off with flaps 10 in the Cessna, leave it. Leave it. Do not retract flaps until everything else is good. All you can do is put the gear up and fly the speed. Whatever power that you set on a 310, 32 inches aside, props forward and mixtures back about 1.5 inches, that is your setting. Lock it down and leave it. Engine failure, put the gear up, fly the speed. I'm very determined on this. This whole thing is huge. I could only detect this because of the pitch. When I heard that C, it didn't sit right with me because that's not a C natural. It's not anything. It's not even a note. It's well below C, and it should have been every bit of a C, if not even barely a C sharp. We need more RPM. We needed that sound, and we didn't have it. AOPA Dick McSpadden's an F-16 guy. There ain't no way he can understand or tell you any of this stuff about this. I'm very sorry, Dick, but at density altitude, this is not it. This is a flight training moment. This is what happened to this guy, and I'm really sorry to tell you, you guys got to do a lot better job on telling people what the actual truth is here. This is not a density altitude crash. This has nothing to do with density altitude.
Northwest 51 Charlie, runway 20, right turns approved, clear for takeoff, wind's calm. Clear for takeoff, 51 Charlie, thanks for call. 51 Charlie's got an engine failure. And say again? 51 Charlie's got an engine failure. 51 Charlie, roger, you make the left turn to runway 33? Roger, 51 Charlie.
I got the June data. I'm going to review just a couple off this again here before we go on. This is June 2023. Take a look at what I got on the screen here. The first one I'm talking about is this 977 Romeo Victor. We already talked about this, but I want you to know that this airplane was involved in an event up at Oshkosh. It ran into another airplane. I'm going to use this since this is the week of Oshkosh. A lot of you go into Oshkosh. I'm going to put this screen. This is from the probable cause that the NTSB reported here. The contributing factors, I want to read this thing to you so you can see exactly what it is. It was cited as a contributing factor that the pressure, the air show environment was a pressure. I want you to read what I got on the screen here. You fly your airplane. Don't worry about who's behind you. Don't worry about what the ATC guy said to do. You land your airplane. If you can't land it on the green dot, you're a go-around. No problem. You go around and get back in line or whatever you got to do. Do not hurry to get off the runway. You stay in control. Even after landing, you're obligated to stay in control of your aircraft. Get your aircraft down to a safe taxi speed. Make a safe exit off the runway. Do not get excited about what's behind you. That's none of your business. The guy behind you, that's his job to watch you. If you're a problem, he's going to go around. You fly your airplane first. Don't worry about reading that NOTAM while you're in flight. You should review the NOTAM once you're in flight. I want to make sure, check out Dylan's video that we already looked at. Check out, he puts his iPad and his phone in the back seat. He's head on a swivel looking outside the airplane. He's got his headsets on. He's paying attention. That's the way you need to go in Oshkosh. Put your head on a swivel, pay attention, be ready to go around. Slow is better. Do what they say, but don't get excited and don't get in a hurry just because the air traffic controller gave you an order. Don't do it. You know, I was at Oshkosh a few years ago, listening to the radio, and I watched a Cessna 150 right base for 27. The controller turned him in and he said, tighten it up, tighten it up, tighten it up, tighten it up. The guy kept on tightening it up until he stalled it and spun it. The controller was screaming at him to tighten it up, and he did, and both of them are dead. Don't do what a controller tells you to do outside your aircraft operation limitations. You fly your airplane. That controller is not flying your airplane. You fly your airplane, period. I wish you all the best up there this week. I wish I could join you for a few days, but I think I think the weather's looking good. I want you all to be safe. I do not want to do an accident report on the fatal that occurred at Oshkosh. I want everybody to slow down, do a nice job, and conform. Keep your aircraft under control. All right, here's the July date. I'm going to put it up here on the screen for you, but here's how it goes. This November 5524 Fox, we've talked about this. This is North Carolina. Joe Farnese, MD, 66, lost the engine on takeoff, did not handle it. The PA-32 up in Alaska flew into terrain. We got their NTSB preliminary out there. The pilot did survive it, and he was able to tell us exactly what he did. He flew himself into a box canyon, could not get out. The 172, we've already talked about this. This is Jared Newman, age 39, his kids in the back seat. This was a messed up go around. And the one thing I want to tell you about, Blanco just did a video on this thing. The one thing Blanco did not mention is in a go around, put the nose down. Yes, delay putting the flaps up, but put the nose down. Full power, your two actions are lower the nose, full power. If you can afford to go lower over the runway, then go lower. How low can you go? Go lower. Full power, nose down, get your aircraft under control before you even think about reaching for those flaps. If you add full power and you've got it trimmed for landing and this nose comes up, this is what's going to happen. The messed up go-around is an AQP maneuver. I want you to stay alive out there, and I want you to go out and practice the go-around, the messed up go-around, especially in our higher-powered airplanes, Cirrus, 210s, things like that, where you add power, this nose shoots for the moon. You would have to be Atlas to be able to overcome and push with your left hand and push on this thing. Get ready for this. Practice it. Be ready for it. How much can you push? I think you ought to go to the gym and practice pushing about 30 pounds with your biceps. See if you can do it. Push the nose down. If you can afford to go lower, go lower. Let's take a look at the next one. November 703 Zulu, that's the 182. We already talked about that. The A36 in Louisiana, November 15, Romeo Papa, Brad Terrell, 55, private pilot with an instrument rating. This is night IMC arrival late at night. They scud runned in. They did not have an IFR on final. I think they were just trying to find the airport, and they drove it straight in the ground. The CE 550 on the 8th, that's at 4:14 a.m., November 819, Kilo Romeo. We already talked about that. 6 people died on that. November 473 Mike, that's the PA-30 in Texas. The preliminary is out on that. You can see all about that. 100 Papa Bravo, very little information. This is the Aerostar in Colorado. This is an IMC takeoff. I don't know who the guy was, but he stopped for fuel at this airport. He made an IMC takeoff. He rotated right up into the goo, and just off the end of the runway, he drove it right straight into the ground. I don't know if he had an IFR on file or not. In any case, he rotated up into the clouds and came right back down. This is either intentional IMC after takeoff or unintentional IMC after takeoff. I'm not sure which one, but in any case, he's just as dead. November 4922 Golf, that's the 172. We already talked about this. Hit the power lines. That's Kirk Hartford, age 73, out in Colorado. November 8225, November, that's the PA 28140. That's the overloader one, Hayden Richard, 22 years old. This one hits so close to home. This is how come I've beefed up Dylan so much on checklist, on flying the airplane. Put your iPad in the back seat. Pay attention to your weight, your density, altitude. You be ready for this stuff. Don't go out and do this. We cannot replace Hayden. I can't replace Dylan. You better be careful out there. Your lives are valuable. We don't need any more funerals out here, folks. Let's be more careful with our tiny little underpowered Cherokee 140s. We cannot go out here and operate like that. The next one is November 5, 251 Charlie. That's the Cessna 310 Turbo that we've already talked about. He was not ready. Randy Sherman, age 72. Wrong procedure. He was probably taught the wrong procedure. November 200 Romeo Alpha. I'm going to show you this. This was Doug Moeller, and I've got a video of Doug. Let's look at Doug was a great guy. Let's take a look at this video of Doug.
Of course, being in the air, flying, was like being a bird, and like having a freedom that I've never enjoyed before. Aviation is one of the last true, real freedoms we have in this planet, and it was absolutely fabulous. And that airplane ride drove me to then learn how to fly myself and pursue a career in aviation.
Doug was a retired Continental captain. I'm not sure if he went over to United or what his story was, but a longtime pilot, 79 years old, in Kansas. He was up there. He took off in this Navajo, made a left-hand turn. He hit power lines. I cannot figure out. Here's the picture of his path. Here's the picture of the power lines that he hit. I cannot figure out how this happened. I don't know if the power lines caused the crash or if he was already on the way down. It kind of looks like a dual engine failure, but in any case, it doesn't make sense that he turned left towards the west like this. I don't get it. We have no information on this so far. Our deepest respects to the family up there, Doug's family. He was a great guy, well loved by everyone in the area, very well known by everyone in the area, very experienced pilot. And how he ended up on a west heading into those high tension power lines, he obviously knew that they were there. Why he would fly that airplane into the power lines, I have no idea. The last one that I have so far as of today, Sunday, when I'm recording this, this is the Bell 206 up in Alaska. 4 people on board, a pilot and 3 passengers are dead. It has to do, this is a 135 operation, so it doesn't really fit with our general aviation fatal accident. It won't get included in our data. Remember, we're Part 91 GA USA stuff only. I put this on the list just so you can see it, but another helicopter, a Turbine 206, Bell 206 helicopter in Alaska. That's it. I got to get this video done, up and on the air. I want you to fly safe out there this week. We are making a difference. My thanks to all you who contribute data, pictures, support everything else for this channel. This video took about 50 hours to build. It absolutely killed me, and I'm going to get this thing up and on the air. I want you to watch it, review it, and learn something off it. You multi-engine pilots, I want you to think about this. Let me know what you think of my procedure. Do not have an engine failure in your twin and arbitrarily jam everything forward. That's completely absurd, and you don't need to do it. Whatever power you got set on takeoff is the power that you need. That's the power that you got. Engine failure, gear up, identify, verify, feather, blue line checklist. That's all you got to do. Fly straight ahead till the cows come home. When you get 1,000 feet, you think about turning around, raise the dead, think about easing back to the airport if you can. If not, you're a Part 23 airplane. Remember, all these airplanes are all Part 23. A 182 and a 310 are manufactured under the same guarantees. There are no guarantees. Flying VYSC may produce a well-developed sink. Even if you do everything textbook perfect with a check pilot, with a test pilot on board, flying VYSC with everything perfect may yield a well-developed sink. At VYSC, Part 25, you get a guaranteed climb gradient. Part 23, you do not. Anything, Navajo, 310, 414, 210, 182, they're all Part 23 airplanes, which means from the FAA, the guarantee is there are no guarantees. Get it? I gotta get out of here. We did not get to get any music done because we've just been so covered up with everything here, but I appreciate you watching. I'll see you again next Sunday night. Thanks again for your support. Once again, I'm gonna give you my stuff here. If you like this video, consider a $1 donation, $1 or $2 at the very most. I'm making $200 or $300 a week off this, which is enough to keep me going. Zelle, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. These are totally electronic, totally secure. If you give me $1, I actually get $1, and I appreciate it. It gives me some incentive to try to keep these videos going because it's been killing me in addition to everything else that I've had to do here. For my tiny little, itty-bitty, fledgling YouTube channel, Dan Grider, probable cause.
Aviation is one of the last true, real freedoms we have in this planet.